Alfred Hitchcock was a famous filmmaker who is remembered as one of the greatest directors in the history of cinema. He was born in London, England, in 1899. Hitchcock's love for films started when he was very young. As a child, he was quiet and liked to read a lot of books, especially stories about mysteries and suspense. This love for stories grew into a passion for films, and he decided to make movies that would make people feel nervous, scared, and excited all at once. He became famous for creating movies with unexpected twists and surprises, earning him the title of the Master of Suspense. Hitchcock's first experiences in film were in the 1920s. At that time, movies did not have sound, so filmmakers had to tell stories with only pictures and actions. Hitchcock made several silent films during this time, and even without sound, his movies were full of tension and excitement. He learned how to use the camera to make people feel nervous and anxious. One of his earliest films, The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog, 1927, was about a man who might be a criminal. It had suspenseful moments that kept the audience guessing about the man's true identity. As he got older, Hitchcock moved to Hollywood, where he would make many of his most famous films. In Hollywood, he became very successful. One of his most famous early films was Rebecca, 1940, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture. This film told the story of a young woman who married a man with a mysterious past, and it was full of suspense and drama. Hitchcock's style was starting to become clear. He used mysterious characters, tense situations, and unexpected events to surprise his audience. One of the things that made Hitchcock's films unique was his ability to surprise the audience. He didn't just make movies that were scary. He made movies that kept people on the edge of their seats. In Rear Window, 1954, for example, the main character, played by James Stewart, is a photographer who is stuck in his apartment with a broken leg. While he's at home, he starts to watch his neighbors through the window. He becomes convinced that one of them has committed a murder. The audience never knows if he's right or wrong, and that uncertainty creates a lot of suspense. The movie makes you think, what if this happened to me? What would I do? This kind of story, where the main character and the audience don't know what is real and what isn't, became a trademark of Hitchcock's work. Another film that showed Hitchcock's talent for surprise was Psycho, 1960. This film is one of the most famous in movie history. It tells the story of a woman who steals money from her boss and runs away. She ends up staying at a motel run by a strange man named Norman Bates. What happens next is shocking, and it completely surprises the audience. The film's most famous scene, the shower scene, is one of the most well-known moments in cinema history. In this scene, the audience is led to believe that something terrible is about to happen, and then it does in a way that no one expects. The way Hitchcock used music and camera angles to create tension made this scene unforgettable. The shock and suspense in Psycho set a new standard for horror films, and it influenced many filmmakers who came after him. Hitchcock was a master at creating suspense, and he had many ways of doing it. Music was one of his most important tools. In many of his films, the music helped build tension. He would use slow, quiet music to make the audience feel calm, and then suddenly, the music would become loud and fast, signaling that something terrible was about to happen. This use of music kept the audience on edge and made the scary moments even scarier. He also used the camera in unique ways to tell his stories. Hitchcock liked to use close-ups of people's faces, so the audience could see their emotions. This made the audience feel connected to the characters. Sometimes he would use wide shots to show the entire scene, making the audience feel small and helpless. These clever uses of the camera helped create suspense and made the audience feel the danger that the characters were facing. Another film where Hitchcock showed his skill in creating suspense was Vertigo, 1958. In this film, James Stewart plays a police officer who is afraid of heights. He is asked to follow a woman who might be in danger. As he follows her, the audience becomes part of the story, experiencing the character's fear of heights along with him. Hitchcock used the camera to show how the character saw things, which made the audience feel as if they were in the character's shoes. This was another example of how Hitchcock involved the audience in the story. Even though Hitchcock made many suspenseful and scary films, he also made films in other genres. For example, he made a movie called The Trouble with Harry, 1955, which was a dark comedy. In this film, a group of people find a dead body, but instead of being scared, they have strange and funny reactions to it. This movie showed that Hitchcock could play with different kinds of stories, but he still managed to bring a bit of suspense into even the lightest moments. One of the things that made Hitchcock even more famous was his ability to surprise the audience in small ways. He often appeared in his own movies, usually in very short cameos. It became a fun game for moviegoers to try to spot him in each film. Sometimes he would appear in a scene, standing in the background or walking through a door. People loved looking for him, and it became one of the special parts of watching his films. Over the years, Hitchcock became a very famous filmmaker. He won many awards and became a household name. His films were loved by both critics and audiences, and he is remembered today as one of the best directors to ever make movies. His influence can still be seen in many films today, and his style continues to inspire filmmakers around the world. Directors like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese have often mentioned Hitchcock as an influence on their own work. Hitchcock's films were not just about shock value, though. They were about exploring how people react when they are in dangerous or stressful situations. His characters often found themselves in situations that were beyond their control, and the films showed how they tried to cope with these situations. Hitchcock's stories often made people think about their own fears and how they might react if they were in the same situation. He used his films to explore human nature and the ways in which people deal with fear, guilt, and trust. Even though Hitchcock passed away in 1980, his legacy lives on. His films are still studied in film schools, and they continue to entertain new generations of moviegoers. People still enjoy watching his movies because of the way he was able to keep the audience guessing. Hitchcock knew how to make people feel suspense and excitement in ways that were both surprising and thought-provoking. Alfred Hitchcock was a filmmaker who changed the way movies were made. His films are filled with suspense, mystery, and shocking moments that still make audiences gasp. He knew how to tell a story that kept people on the edge of their seats, never knowing what would happen next. Hitchcock's influence can still be seen in many films today, and his movies continue to be enjoyed by people all over the world. He will always be remembered as one of the greatest filmmakers in the history of cinema.